Welcome to Reddit's edit. Please like and subscribe. Serious cheaters of Reddit, why did you cheat on your spouse? Do you regret it? He used to verbally berate me and accuse me of cheating on him. I mean, I would be in hysterical tears for 2 or 3 hours and he wouldn't stop, just kept going on and wouldn't let me leave the room. This started when I was pregnant with my second baby. I thought that man hung the moon and I didn't understand what made him do this to me. This went on for 2 or 3 years. One day something snapped, and I said, "You son of a b, if you're gonna keep accusing me of it, by God, I will get a boyfriend, and when I do, you will have brought it on yourself." Fast forward another year or two, I filed for divorce. He begged and begged to come back home. I tried but it was no good. He so obviously struggled with not being an a-hole. After a few months I went back to the lawyer, said let's do this, drove him and his stuff to his mom's, and left him there. When I mentioned this to an acquaintance, he told me he had feelings for me. While I was still married, I felt no guilt. Of course my ex told everybody in 6 states that I left him for another man. I did not. I left him because he was a narcissistic piece of crap. And the acquaintance who had a crush on me? We've been together 32 years. I have never been tempted to cheat on him. Knock him in the damned head maybe, but didn't do that either. My ex never found out. He was really dry and never treated me like I was special. He's not a D, just a lame boyfriend. I had S with another guy because I never got anything from him, and it was invigorating honestly. I broke up with him shortly after because it made me realize I shouldn't stay in the relationship if I'm happier after being with other people. Same, but I'm a guy. I was dating the girl for a few years. We had been good friends before we started dating, and I think that we should have stayed friends, but neither of us wanted to end things because then we might end the friendship too. Totally stopped having sex for months by the end. I broke up with her a couple weeks after cheating because I wasn't happy with the fact that I cheated or that I let things get to the point where I was open to doing that. Long distance and a lack of communication coupled with self-esteem issues, I suppose. I regret it as I should, and I don't expect forgiveness as I don't deserve any. If I felt she wasn't making an effort to include me in her life while we were apart, then I should have broken it off before I did something unforgivable, but I broke it off later for that reason as well as having cheated. Now staying away from relationships until I'm confident I can be with someone I can commit to and get commitment in return from. I used to have a bad habit of letting relationships drag on far past their emotional end. I would fall out of love with these men, but I didn't realize it until I had fallen for someone else, and by that time I was contemptuous and disillusioned enough with the relationship that I didn't really care how it made the guy I was dating feel. I would end up kissing the new guy and breaking up with the old guy immediately after. Essentially, the cheating served as the catalyst for ending a relationship. I finally recognized this habit, and now I pay more attention to how I feel in a relationship and break it off once it's clearly over instead of hanging on out of routine and comfort. Wasn't happy with my partner. He didn't give me the attention, mentally, emotionally, or physically that I needed. I loved him, but I felt like he kept me around to pass the time. My best friend though, he gave me all the attention I needed and made me feel like the sexiest woman in the world. My ex made me feel like a sex toy. I've told this story on here before, so I'll dig it out again and make some edits for the stuff that has changed since then. I didn't get caught. I confessed after I had gotten home, although in a very ugly way. My wife and I had been experiencing some rather serious bedroom trouble. We went from trying to break each other in half on a regular basis to one day her not wanting sex at all. She and I tried several different things to remedy the situation. Different things to try to get her off. Reading books, changing her birth control, going to therapy to get over some issues left over by her ex-husband. Nothing worked. We tried swinging, and while our outings with other couples were usually a lot of fun, home still wasn't much better. The sex suddenly started to feel burdensome. I began to feel like my needs were a chore, and she said as much as well. One day we were out at a local swingers function and there was a group of BDSM people there, doing a rope demonstration. Up until this point in life we were both relatively open-minded people. That's how we got into swinging in the first place. She wanted to try being tied up by this guy and I agreed because I figured it couldn't hurt. She enjoyed herself and we went on about our business without me giving it too much thought. It turns out BDSM is what really turns her crank. She dove headfirst into the Baltimore BDSM scene and got very involved very fast. I was skittish about the entire deal right away and didn't understand it and had reached my limits of what I'd previously thought of as an open mind. She threw herself more and more into the kink community and I slowly felt a disconnect. The sex was still sporadic and unpassionate, but now she had a play partner that she felt very close to. It all killed me. Slowly it started to eat away at my confidence as a partner and as a lover. I felt like a shitty lay for not being able to get my wife interested in sex, and I felt like a shitty husband for not being able to meet her needs or share her interests. Her involvement in the scene and time away from home grew. My drinking got out of control, and I accidentally overdosed on sleeping pills twice. We never figured out how to fix it. Meanwhile, recently I had made a friend at the local bar, a girl that was pretty, clever and shared some similar interests. She could in no way compete with my wife, but I liked her enough to want to hang out with her in a platonic way. In January of 2013 my wife decided that she was going to schedule up all of her free time in a 1-week period to kink functions or hanging out with her friends in the scene. Between Monday and Friday we spent a mere handful of hours together, and the time we did spend together I was frustrated and alienated. I pushed her away, and for the whole week there was a wall of cold disregard between us. Then the next Monday she scheduled a kink event in our home. Rather than come home from work, I went straight to the bar. My friend was there, and we got hammered. Next thing I know she's driving me to her house and we have a few hours of rather ridiculous sex. The worst part is it felt amazing. Here was someone that actually wanted me, that didn't treat having sex me like a chore, that felt pleasure when I touched her and did things to her. I felt confident about my sexual abilities for the first time in ages. I came home in the morning still drunk and extremely agitated. The events of the evening had been a complete whirlwind of emotions for me, partly from guilt, spite, the things that I had missed with my wife and the feelings that I had experienced with my friend. I was combative and angry. I didn't know how to approach my wife with anything other than anger. I told her what I had done, but I wasn't gracious, and I pulled no punches. She was rightfully quite upset. We stayed together for just over a year after that. She and I admitted that there were better ways to handle the differences in our needs and all the things that were missing from our relationship. In the end we loved each other, but what we wanted in life was too different from what we could have with each other and we separated. We were together for 5 years. We had been friends for several years before dating. We lived together, bought a house together, and had a daughter together. Prior to our daughter we had a very active sex life. After our daughter was born, we hardly ever had sex, even after she got the okay from the doctor to resume sexual activity. It was once, maybe twice a month, and only if she initiated. All of my advances were shut down, often met with rather extreme and aggressive responses on her part. I was frustrated and rejected. This went on for a couple years. She cheated on me. She was having cybersex sessions on Chatroulette and Skype. She would go to bed with me, wait for me to fall asleep, and then get out of bed and take her laptop to the living room and F herself on cam for random internet strangers. When I found this out, I was devastated. She would rather jerk off for random dudes on the internet than F her boyfriend in the next room. My self-esteem had never been lower. Eventually we reconciled, went to couples counseling and all that. I was holding on because I came from a broken family and I wanted better for my daughter. She didn't put any effort into fixing things pretty much from the start. Before long she quit counseling and stopped all the techniques and things we had learned. I should have left then, but I continued to hang on. We acted like everything was okay, but I know I was miserable. I started to mentally check out of the relationship. I'm sure she had mentally checked out a long time ago, but I held on for my daughter's sake. I thought it was what was best. There was no sex, no affection, no love. I don't know when or why I decided to do it, but one day I signed up for Tinder. I consider myself a little bit above average in the looks department. I got a few matches, had some decent conversations with a few girls, although it was mostly surface and small talk. The attention felt great and my once shattered self-esteem was getting a much needed boost even though it was all very innocent. And then I matched with her. She was the exact opposite of my GF in every aspect: looks, personality, interests. She was mixed race with dark curly hair and green eyes. Her body was insane. She was gorgeous. She was funny and interesting and loved all the same things as me. She asked to meet up for coffee and I agreed. We chatted for several hours. We had a connection. We had chemistry. We went on a few more dates until one day she invited me back to her place and effed me like I've never been before. The sex was insane. I was hooked. I would tell my girlfriend various excuses to get out of the house and go F this other girl a couple times a week. I kept at it for several months. Eventually, I found out my girlfriend cheated on me again, this time physically with a coworker. It was rather hypocritical of me, I know, but I broke up with her for good after I found out.